Good afternoon. I spoke in my sermon yesterday about truth. And I wasn't talking about truth in the sense of things being factually accurate. I spoke about the deeper truths that guide our lives. I spoke about truth in the sense that Jesus meant when he called himself the way, the truth, and the life. Yes, the Bible wants us to speak the truth in the literal sense, to say what is real and accurate and factual. But even more importantly, the Bible wants us to live the truth, to allow the truth, who Jesus is, to be made evident in how we conduct ourselves. There's an entire book of the Bible dedicated to this concept. It's the book of Proverbs in the Old Testament. Proverbs urges us to seek wisdom, which we could also call insight or understanding. So if intelligence means knowing what is factually true, wisdom means knowing what to do with the things that are factually true. What is the significance about it? What is the truth that underlies the reality of life? What does it all mean? Now, Proverbs isn't just telling us about knowing wisdom. Proverbs, more importantly, teaches us how to live wisely. The greater part of the book of Proverbs is filled with aphorisms that can help us discern what wise conduct would look like. But the book begins with several chapters that describe the importance of wisdom and why wisdom matters so much. Recently, when I was studying Proverbs, I noticed a phrase that is repeated twice. It showed up in chapter 1, verse 3, and again in chapter 2, verse 9. They talk about the purpose for gaining wisdom. In other words, for knowing what is true. Proverbs chapter 1, verse 3 tells us we want to know wisdom so that we can do what is right, just, and fair. And chapter 2, verse 9 tells us that wisdom will help us understand what is right and just and fair. So I think it might be a good idea for us to look at these three words because they are the marks of a life that is lived according to wisdom and truth. Right and just and fair is how the New International Version translation renders these Hebrew words. Other translations use words like righteousness and justice and integrity or equity. So if this is what wisdom and truth leads us to do, we might want to see exactly what they are. So let's look at the original Hebrew words behind these translations. So the first of the three things that wisdom leads us to do is, in the Hebrew, tzedek, which is often translated as righteousness. But this is not righteousness in the sense of being holier than thou and being self-righteous. Tzedek means doing the things that are right and pure and good. But even this only skims the surface of the meaning of the word. We do what is right and good, not only for ourselves. It doesn't just mean keep your own nose clean, make sure that you are living righteously. But tzedek also means doing what is right and good for other people. In this sense, righteous living is linked directly with living compassionately. To be righteous means making sure everyone gets what they deserve and need. It means seeking justice for the oppressed. It means providing help for the needy. That's the first of the three words. The second word is mishpat, which is often translated as justice. And that might sound similar to what we just talked about, and that's because it is. Mishpat is justice in the sense of making judgments. In fact, court decisions back then were called mishpat. Doing justice means standing up for what is right. Now, in God's hand, mishpat or judgment does not mean to condemn or destroy, but to save. Mishpat, justice, is to ensure that what is good can prosper. If you want an image of your mind of what mishpat looks like, think of a surgeon who is removing a tumor or a growth. You get rid of what is bad so the good can flourish. Now, these two attributes, righteous and justice, or to use the Hebrew, tzedek and mishpat, they often are mentioned together throughout the Old Testament. But in Proverbs, as this book is championing the cause of wisdom and truth, it adds a third word. The third word is yosher, which can be translated as straightness or uprightness or being conscientious. Yosher should bring to your mind the image of a solid straight line or path. See, we often do what is right in our own eyes, but yosher means doing what truth and wisdom teaches us. To live a life of yosher, of uprightness and straightness, does not only mean that we are following God's path, but it means that we are setting a path for others to follow as well. So these three words, righteousness, justice, uprightness, these three words describe concepts very similar to each other, but together they help us know the goal of knowing the truth, of being people of wisdom. Would you pray with me, please? Lord, it is so easy for us to misunderstand what righteousness and justice and uprightness can look like. It is easy for us to turn these into hammers that we use to attack other people, to look for what is not lining up with the way we things ought to be, so that we can condemn them. But instead, Lord, help us to recognize that righteousness means compassion, that to live justly means to be setting out what is good, and to live uprightly means following your path and setting a path for others to follow as well. Amen. Thanks for joining me. We'll talk again later.